Welcome, friend. Good morning. It's Pastor Aaron, and this is March the 24th, a Tuesday morning. And here we are again at my desk. Well, I'm at my desk. You're at home. But I wanted to bring you some encouragement again this morning. I think we all just continue to need encouragement. And I've been praying about what I could bring for you, and what came to my mind was the 23rd Psalm. Personally, I have found this psalm so encouraging at various times in my life, and honestly, it's so special to me because my earliest thoughts about God really came from this psalm, because my father used to tuck me in bed at night when I was a kid, and every night he would read me this psalm, and I just found it so comforting, and it really did shape what I think about God. And so it has come back to me often, and in fact, this past week, as a volunteer chaplain for the hospital, I got a call from a man who is stuck there at the hospital. Just found out he's going to have open heart surgery. Family can't come and see him. He's scared. And I get to share the psalm with him, and it was very precious. And I hope that it's an encouragement for you too. And let's read the psalm together. It's only 6 verses long, so that makes it really easy to kind of hide away in your heart. If you've never memorized Psalm 23, I'd invite you to do that. This is a good time for that. You've got a little, maybe you've got a little extra time on your hands, stuck at home. Hide this psalm in your heart. You won't regret it. It'll come back to visit you during times when you need it. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That's God's word. Let's just kind of take it verse by verse here real quick, and if you will, let me share a few things with you. In verse 1, David says that the Lord is his shepherd. His shepherd. Friend, right from the get-go, this psalm encourages us to think about God as being in a place of personal care over you. He's not just a shepherd, he's my shepherd. And what's the result of that? It really is kind of introducing us to the rest of the psalm. The result of God caring over us is that he says, I shall not want. Don't misunderstand what he means by that. What he means is, and so I don't lack anything. Because God is my shepherd, because he's watching over me, there's nothing that I'll lack. Verse 2, it says, he makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. And what David is pointing out is that God not only gives us food and water, he also gives us rest. Just like a shepherd would for his sheep, the Lord watches over us and makes sure that we get those things that we need. That's the kind of care that he shows over us. He makes us lie down. You know, sometimes don't you find it so that God has to make you rest sometimes? That's what a shepherd will do. He knows the sheep need their rest. He knows the sheep need food and water. He knows, friend, your needs. And God is taking care of you. He will watch over you. He will lead you to those places that you need. If you can picture the image of this green, grassy meadow near a brook, still water, and the Lord asks you to lay down and rest and have what you need. Friend, that's the image that David is painting for us, and it really is a good image of what life is like. Verse 3, he restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Now, there's a couple things going on in this verse. One, it says that he restores my soul. Really, what those words mean, it means that he revives us. He gives us a second wind, a new energy, a new life. Friend, that really is also from the Lord. Haven't you found it to be so? That sometimes when you're just worn out and you turn to God, you cry out to him and you find rest in him, suddenly he gives you just this a new heart. He gives you he revives you. He revives you. And that's what David is promising here. Just like after you've had a good rest and you wake up, sometimes you just feel like a new person. The Lord does that for us as well. That's the Lord's intention, is to continue to take care of his children and revive them. Next, he says he leads us in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. In other words, the shepherd doesn't want the sheep to wander off. He leads them in the right way so that the sheep do the right thing for his own sake. The Lord has no intention of losing any of his children. Because of that, the Lord teaches us, friend, to do what's right. That's why he says the paths of righteousness. You know, when we think about God's commands, the Ten Commandments, I invite you not to think about them as some kind of a killjoy restrictions on life. If you really think about the Ten Commandments, they are for our good. That we shouldn't have another God, that we shouldn't worship other things other than God, that we shouldn't take his name lightly or think about him lightly, that we should take a day of rest and worship, that we should honor our parents, that we should be faithful to our spouses, that we shouldn't kill, that we shouldn't steal, that we shouldn't lie, that we shouldn't covet. All of these things, friend, are designed both for our good and for the honor of God. When we stray away from them, it brings shame, not only on us, but on God's name, especially if you're a Christian. You know, if you're a Christian and you're walking in opposition to the Lord in these things, it brings a shame on his name. And the Lord doesn't want that from you, and he doesn't want that for you. And so do think about that as the Lord is shepherding you and he's giving you these wholesome, good commands. Think about the reason why. In verse 4, he says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Friend, here's a good verse for you for right now. The uncertainty that has fallen over our country and probably has caused you at least some measure of anxiety. It does kind of look like a valley of deep darkness, doesn't it? We don't know what's ahead. We don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of uncertainties about the future for us as a nation and even around the world. But Christian, something for you to keep in mind is that we need not fear evil. Why? This verse says, because he's with us. Our shepherd is with us. David says, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And so he mentions two different things, a rod and a staff. The rod was what a shepherd would use to drive away enemies, sheep, wolves, lions, anything that would come to prey on the sheep. The shepherd would stand in the way and fight them off with this rod. Consider, friend, how powerful the Lord is and how strong his ability to protect his children. The Lord is a good shepherd that way. Not only his rod gives us comfort, but his staff gives us comfort. The staff was what the shepherd used to guide the sheep in the right way, to keep them out of danger. They're heading for a side of a cliff. He uses the staff to pull them back. Friend, when we walk through difficult, uncertain times, we can take comfort in the fact that the Lord will neither let evil come at us from the outside and have its way with us, nor will he stand and watch as we walk blindly into danger. He keeps us safe. And it's because of that we can fear no evil. Even if we walk through dark times, difficult times, we need not fear any evil. And then when we get to verse 5, the image changes. It changes from one of a pastoral scene, a meadow scene, to the image of God being a host for us. Let's read verse 5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. And what David is suggesting here is even if we walk through difficult times, we will be surprised by the way that he provides for us suddenly. He prepares this feast. That's the image there. He prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Doesn't matter what the world says about you, Christian. Doesn't matter what fear there is lurking out there. The Lord, for you, prepares a feast. Why? Because he wants to welcome you in. It says that he anoints my head with oil. In David's day, a good host, when inviting someone to his home, would not only put out a big spread before them as far as this banquet, this feast goes, but he would also take personal pains to welcome his guest. One of the ways that they did that was to anoint their guests with oil. It was fragrant. It made them smell good. It was just a way of saying, I honor you. And the Lord not only will be generous with you, Christian, he'll also take special pains to make you feel special, because you are to him special. Friend, that's what the psalm is teaching us. And when we get to verse 6, he says, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. There's some very precious things to learn in this verse. He says that surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. That word that he uses for mercy, it's the Hebrew word chesed, and what it means is essentially grace. It is kindness. It is a gift beyond what we deserve shown. That's what that word means. It is an abundant mercy. And David is suggesting that because the Lord is our shepherd, all the days of our life, he will follow us, showing us goodness and mercy. Do you believe that everything that comes to you is coming from the Lord's goodness and meant for your good? Friends, sometimes that's a hard thing to understand, and it's a hard thing to believe. Remember, Romans chapter 8 teaches us that he works all things together for good for those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. And just because something is good doesn't always mean that I'm going to enjoy it right away. Sometimes the good that comes to me is a painful good. But if I look to the Lord in the midst of it, I can know and I can believe that what the Lord brings, he brings for my good, and in order to show me mercy. And also do keep in mind, friend, when it comes to trials do not last forever for the Christian. For someone who is experiencing the Lord's mercy, trials come to pass. They come and then they leave. But what does not leave is the Lord's goodness and the Lord's mercy. And that's why he looks even further on and says, I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Don't ever forget that the biggest mercy, the biggest goodness that is following you now is yet waiting for you up ahead. In that one day the Lord will call us to be with him. Book of Revelation says that on that day there won't be any more crying or tears or mourning or death, because the Lord loves us and the old order of things will have passed away. Friend, there's something to be encouraged about. And how can you know this? How can you know that the words of this psalm are true, that they're not just fluff? Well, friend, the biggest way that I can know that mercy, that is, this chesed, grace, will follow me all the days of my life is to know that mercy in Jesus Christ. See, these words aren't just for anybody. These words are for the one who can call the Lord his shepherd. And the way the Lord gives us the biggest mercy of all is by having sent Jesus Christ for us. It's in what Jesus did at the cross that we really taste what mercy is. And it is that sacrifice that Christ made at the cross for us that is the promise for us that God has removed our sin as far as the east is from the west. And on account of that, we can know then that whatever else comes for us comes out of the Lord's mercy and out of his goodness for us. Christian, I hope that that gives you encouragement this week. You stop and remember the Lord is your shepherd, and so you'll lack nothing. Happy week to you, and may the Lord bless you.